Hey y'all. So, as you already know, we have a super powerful full moon that is coming upon us on August the 19th, 2024, in the sign of Aquarius. And at this particular time, along with the full moon, the energy in the skies are bringing forth chaos, tension, struggle, just thickness, and not necessarily bad, change and transformation and sudden shocking events, all of those things. But we're going to talk about why this full moon and all of those energies at this particular moment in time is doing what they're doing. We're going to talk about those details, tease it out, and describe how it's going to be affecting each and every one of you based on your sun, moon, or rising signs. But first, before we even get into that, let's talk about what a full moon actually is. So a full moon is an opposition between the moon and the sun. And sometimes we can categorize oppositions as challenging energy. It really just depends on what sign the sun and the moon are in, and do those signs or their ruling planets, do they play nicely? Right? So you have the sun and the moon sitting across from each other, giving us our full moon. And in full moon energies bring forth with it a burst of energy. A surge of energy that energizes us to move and to do things, to make action, where we didn't before. So if you had a desire to change something, if you had an idea, if you wanted to do something, and you have a full moon hitting it with its burst of energy, you're going to move on that thing. But full moon's energy is so unrefined, is so unprocessed. It's kind of chaotic in itself, because it's just new and it's just a burst of thing. Although it has an energy of bringing things to fruition. It has an energy of bringing things to light, but it's still untamed because we haven't had a chance to sit with that energy and direct it in the way that we want it to do, and to bring about what we want it to bring about, because it hits us so suddenly. Now, what's special about this full moon and all of its glory, bringing its energy with it, it's going to be very close to us. And so this is why it's a super moon. A super full moon happens when the moon is close to us. So we feel its energy a bit more potently, right? Because it's closer to us. So we have that going on. Not only do we have that going on, we have some other challenging conversations in the skies, or challenging conversations between the planets that are happening in the skies. And I call it conversations because it's easier to kind of convey exactly what's happening. And so if you think about it, think about yourself when you're having a conversation with your best friend, or you're having a conversation with somebody that you get along with. The energy is easy. You're passing ideas, you're laughing, you're keying, and everything is all good because the energy between you and that person, or between you and those people, if it's a group of friends, it's all good. But imagine the person that you don't get along with at work because they always got a snide remark. They always are too critical. They always are very nosy. They always are, you name it. They're doing something that just rubs you the wrong way, or you're doing something that rubs them the wrong way, and the energy between you is just not good. Or every time you get in a room with somebody, you have it's argument, it's frustration, it's, you know what I mean? It's just not easy. And so I like for you to think about it that way, because this is actually what's happening in the sky. It's not the easy conversations that's happening. It's the ones that are hard. It's the one that brings intensity. It's the ones that bring the challenges and the struggles and the conflict. That is what's actually happening. And that is, those conversations are being energized by the energy that the moon is bringing. So what are those aspects or those conversations like that are happening in the sky? Number one, we have oppositions. Number two, we have squares. So oppositions aren't necessarily bad, but they do bring intensity, and it depends on how those planets actually gel or not with each other. So an opposition is the planets standing directly across from one another, right? So like the sun and the moon is directly across from each other. The moon is going to be in Aquarius and the sun is going to be in Leo. That's 180-degree opposition. So we have other oppositions that's coming along. And so oppositions, all of these conversations in the sky, they beg certain questions. And so oppositions, you want to know, the first thing you want to ask yourself when you figure out, is this going to be an opposition, is, okay, what is the level of intensity going to be? Is this aspect bringing balance? Is it bringing challenge? Do these planets get along? Is it a you scratch my back, I scratch your back thing? You do for me, I do, like, you know what I mean? Like, we get along? Or is it going to be a fight? Do they just not mix like oil and water? That's what you need to find out what's going on. And this is what we're going to talk about. The other type of conversation that's going on is the square. And the square is a 90-degree aspect. It's a hard angle. This is a full-on battle, okay? A full-on battle is bringing tension, it's bringing struggle, it's bringing conflict. And the questions that you should be asking when we're having squares is, what is the solution going to be? Because you have to figure out the solution. Like, what is coming up that's causing this challenge that I have to solve? Right? Also, what squares do is they force you to ask the question, where do I find my strength in this? Right? I know there are certain challenges that I have gone through, and I didn't even know that I had the strength that I had until that challenge, that conflict, that struggle brought it out of me. And so that is what the square is going to do. So it ain't necessarily bad, in my opinion. I'm not going to say I like, because it's not always comfortable, but the squares with the challenging energy that it brings, it always brings the aftermath, is the staying power of what that challenge is unearthing, right? And so when you're having a square, you want to ask yourself, who am I now? Who do I want to be, or who will I be when this challenge is over? Right? And that's all about how you're going to solve that conflict, right? So what is the challenge trying to teach you is what you need to be asking, right? How can I dig deep and find my strength? Okay. And so, yes, people are talking about, oh, you need to go hide under a rock. You need to be scared, and you need to do. No, you don't need to do that. You need to be brave, right? And so people, yes, they're going to be not acting like themselves. You might not be acting like yourself, but if you're informed, you need to check that. Like, you're here and you're having this conversation with me right now. If you feel yourself being irrational, you need to check that shit. You need to calm it down, right? So what I'm saying is, understand that the energy is going to bring about irrational behavior in people. It's going to bring shocking things out. Things are going to shock you. Right? The energy might want to take something away from you, but no, if it takes something away from you, that thing that is taken away from you, it don't serve you, and it's going to replace it with something that will, either immediately or eventually. Okay. But it's your job to figure out what the energy is trying to move you toward. How are you going to do that? By asking yourself those questions that we just asked a few moments ago, right? And so to become a better you got to figure out what these challenges are actually trying to bring you, right? It's the challenges, it's the struggles that teach you your strength. It shows you the depths of who you are. It rips layers into you. And no, it might not always be comfortable. comfortable, but you know what? You do become better. And right, without having those, you will never know who you can be. You never know what you can accomplish. So welcome the challenges. Welcome this energy. Know what's going on so that you can use it to get to where you have to go. And understand that whatever experience it brings you, your whole being is going to know why you will or you won't do something, why you will be with somebody, why you won't, why you will do that job, why you won't, why you will put that business in play, why you won't, why you will have that relationship, while you won't. And guess what? Every single last fiber of you, because of the experience that the challenge is bringing you, is going to know why you will or you won't. And I always tell my son, when you have an experience that moves you in such a way, your toenails, why you know why you going to do something and why you won't. So welcome this. Don't hide. Be brave. Right? There will be heightened emotions, but keep your composure. And you know what? The composed is always in control. The composed always win. Just be prepared. And this is why you're here, because I'm preparing you, right? So if it's raining, you want to have your raincoat, your rain boots, and your umbrella. If you're going to be stepping into battle, you want to have your spear. You want to have your sword. You want to have your shield. And you want to have your plan. You want to have a strategy, right? Because you can't win without a strategy. All right. So what are some of those challenging aspects that are happening? We're going to be having on August the 18th. So I'm going a couple days. The new moon is actually going to be on the 19th. So we got to get into what the energy is doing on the days leading up to the full moon, because like I said, the energy from the full moon is energizing all of this stuff. And you can feel the energy from this particular full moon at least a week or two before and a week or two after. So on August the 18th, Mercury is moving into Leo, and it's going to square Uranus in Taurus. And Uranus is all about, it can be all about chaos. It jostles you. It's all about shocking. It's about rebellion. It's about all of those things that's unconventional. It's about the freedom. It's about the split. It's about breaking things apart. Okay. And Mercury is squaring that. So Mercury right now is actually in retrograde. So Mercury in retrograde is like, this is another thing. Like, this is another layer of the conversations that's happening in the sky. Like, with Mercury being retrograde, it's an element of things from the past coming forward, right? And you're going to probably learn something with regards to where it touches in your house that you didn't know before. You're going to have a piece of information that you didn't know. It might be shocking in a good way or a bad way, for better or worse. You're going to find out. Okay. Then, the same day that it actually squares Uranus, Mercury is going to join the sun. And sometimes we say that when a planet joins the sun, its power can be turned down because it's being burned by the sun. We call that being combust. But in this case, it's far enough away from the sun where it's going to be getting good shimmers from the sun. It's going to be getting highlights. We call this a cazimi. This is auspicious. This is luck and opportunity. And so that information that you actually might get might be the information that you need to make the move that you need to make, the one piece that was missing from the puzzle, the one thing that was hidden from you. So you might learn something that's like, yeah, okay, I got this. All right. So you can make a move to becoming a better you, right? By having that information. Now, on the 19th, the next day, we have Venus in Virgo, and it's squaring Jupiter. Now, that may not be so bad because Venus and Jupiter are what we call benefics. They give gifts. They bring us good things, right? And so Venus rules our money. Venus rules our love. Jupiter just gives blessing on blessing, and it expands everything that it touches. But in this square between the two, it might be like, okay, it's showing you where you overdid something, because Jupiter expands something. So in love, Where are you allowing things to fly that probably shouldn't fly? Where are you sweeping things under a rug? Like, how long have you actually done that? Or how long has your partner allowed you to get away with some stuff? Right now, you just might not be able to get away with it. Okay. Where have you overspent? If we're talking about money, right? Where have you overdone your beauty treatments? Like, you need to slow down on the Botox. Quit with them lip injections right now. I'm joking, but I'm saying, like, Venus rules beauty. And so Jupiter squaring Venus is showing you, like, you OD'd, you overdid it. Chill out. Okay. And in the same day, Venus is going to oppose Saturn. And so that's not necessarily good, because Saturn is we call Saturn the taskmaster, but I like Saturn is like that teacher that has the ruler that sticks their finger out. No, you need to get back in line. You can't do this. Saturn is the parent that enforces the rules. And so if you got out of hand with your Venus, with Jupiter squaring it, then Saturn is going to come into play and have you put boundaries back in place, like fix things. Like now you're going to have to pay the piper with regards to wherever you OD'd, you overdid some things. And it's a fast moving aspect, so it's not going to stick around for too long. But if you fucked up, then Saturn is going to get you back in line, and you're going to fix whatever you messed up with regards to that Venus Jupiter conversation. Okay. And so that's what I wanted to say about that. Now, child, the biggie, we're going to have, like, we have a T square. We have a T square. So I want you to think, we talked about the opposition between the sun and the moon. The sun is in Leo, the moon is in Aquarius. And then, like, imagine if you drew a line from the middle of them, and out at the end of that midline of that line that you drew from the middle of each, like, you have Uranus, and Uranus is what we call T squaring, like you draw in a T, right? So Uranus is what we're saying is T squaring the moon. It's T squaring the sun. Ooh, child. Now, we talked about Uranus being what it embodies. Like, it represents, Uranus wants to give you freedom, for better or worse. It wants to free you from, if it's not serving you, Uranus is going real quick. Uranus represents lightning, shocking, action, disruption, sudden, wake up, shake up. It's the wake up, shake up. Okay. And so with Uranus squaring, it's trying to bring you something, or break you away from something, so it can bring you to something. Shockingly, surprisingly, abruptly, and quick. Okay? Abrupt is the same thing as quick, but you get what I'm saying. And it brings chaos with it. You know what I mean? Or it can bring chaos. I mean, it might bring you something that have to make you move quick, but it's something that you actually wanted, right? So before this actually happens, let me back up a little bit. So you have Uranus is in Taurus. The moon and sun are in Aquarius and Leo. We talked about that, right? Lord. We have another big aspect or conversation that's happening. And this conversation this is usually not a good conversation. And this conversation is the square between Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter and Saturn, they just flat out don't like each other. I mean, not for real. Because maybe they like each other. Maybe they do, but this ain't real. This is not a good conversation. And so Jupiter is in Gemini. And Jupiter is in an air sign. And in Gemini, it tends to be all over the freaking place. Yes, Jupiter expands everything that it touches. It want to give gifts. It wants to do all of those things. But Gemini is an air sign. And so it's all over the goddamn place. It's everywhere. There's no structure to it. It's like, and it can be blown out of proportion. Okay. So then you have Jupiter squaring Saturn. And Saturn is like, oh, hell to the no. Like, that Jupiter kite is not going to fly. Okay? No. We need order. We need order in the court. We need boundaries. Are we following the rules? Like, you giving all of these gifts, you allowing all of this kite to fly. Like, what is this affecting? Right? Is this causing chaos? Have you even checked to see how given this thing is going to affect everything else? No, you haven't. And so we're going to put structure to this. That's what Saturn is doing. But before this square even happens, and it's happening on the same day as the full moon, Lord have mercy. It's being energized by the full moon. So it's even bigger than what it would ordinarily be without this energy giving it that boost. Let's back up a couple days, though. Now, on August the 14th, we had Mars going into Gemini. Now, Mars is like, Mars sets it off. Wherever Mars goes, like it's going into Gemini and it's conjuncting Jupiter. Mars is triggering Jupiter. So Jupiter is already expanding. It's already doing what it's doing. Imagine it being triggered by Mars. It's really going crazy. Mars is energizing Jupiter to go ham. Okay? To go ham. It's like, yes, do you. And it's like, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. It's giving. We can't have all these cars on the road because they're going to crash. No, I'm just kidding. But Mars is energizing Jupiter. And then Mars and Saturn don't get along. So just think Mars is like the go, go, go. I don't think, I'm just going to go. I'm going to get shit done. I don't care what havoc I wreak in the process of getting done what I need to get done and getting what I want. And Saturn is and it's young energies. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm ready to go. And Saturn is the old, like, gray beard. No. You cannot. You need to calm down. And so on the 16th, Mars squares Saturn, agitating Saturn. Like, nah. Look what I did. I set Jupiter off, and this is going to piss you off. So that's adding fuel to the fire. Okay. But again, Saturn is like, never mind who you thought I was. I'm Saturn, bitch. You are not getting away with this. You're not. Okay? You're not. So it's a lot of stuff going on. And that is what makes this energy so crazy. It is like, we don't know really like what is going to happen. But again, like, we got to be prepared. And at the end of the day, this energy is going to bring us to our better selves, and what it is it's going to make us that much closer, because we are supposed to evolve. We are supposed to grow, and at the end of the day, this energy is helping us to do that. How are you going to use it? How is it affecting you in your chart? Well, we about to get into that right now. What is going on, Sagittarius? So at the August 19th, 2024 new moon, what does the planetary energy hold for you? Well, yes, the energy is very thick, it's very potent, it's very in your face, and it's going to be affecting each and every last one of us very, very strongly. And so we're here to talk about how the energies are going to affect you, specifically Sagittarius. I want to emphasize, if I haven't done it already, that the full moon is actually energizing with full force every other conversation that's happening in the skies between the heavenly bodies. So if the conversations were powerful without the full moon, they're 10 times as powerful now. And so first, let's talk about Mercury retrograde. Mercury has been retrograde since August the 4th in Leo. And as of the 18th, Mercury squared Uranus in Taurus. Where is this happening for you? This is happening in your 9th house and your 6th house. So the 6th house deals with your work and job responsibilities, techniques, methods, order, self-improvement, your health and nutrition, your attitude toward those topics, service to others, co-workers, pets, and your daily routines and scheduling. That is where Uranus sits in your 6th house. Mercury has to do with our communication, how we exchange thought processes or our thought processes, how we exchange ideas, how we convey our thoughts, how we approach others with information, how we learn information, both conscious and subconscious, right? That is in Leo in your 9th house. So how does it affect you? Well, we're having a bit of what we would normally categorize as a challenging energy. They're squaring each other. Squares deals with conflict, struggles, battles, and so forth. And so Uranus deals with freedom. Uranus wants to give us freedom because it has this breaking apart energy. It has like this splitting energy. It rules earthquakes. It rules lightning. It has a shocking element to it. So shock factor, I call it the wake up, shake up energy because it brings surprises and disruptions in a very sudden way, and it could be chaotic. And so that is happening, or that energy is sending a jolt to your 9th house. And your 9th house deals with your personal belief systems, your sense of adventure, exploration. It also deals with your religious beliefs if you are a religious person. But even if you're not, then it deals with your personal philosophies. It also deals with higher education, long distance travel, foreign languages, foreign cultures, things that are distant from us. And as odd as it might sound, our personal truths, we know that those are held closely to us. So why is it with distance? Not sure. But in any case, you're getting a jolt from Uranus in your 6th house to that house. Let me just say, I don't think that it's going to be all bad because Uranus is in Taurus. Uranus is not giving us all the smoke that it could give us from Taurus because it is in what we call fall. It doesn't like to be in Taurus, so it's not at its full strength. Okay, so it's not going to be as bad as I think it's predicted. And also, Mercury is in Leo. And so the sun is in Leo and the sun is at home in Leo. So when the sun is at home, it's actually in full strength. It's given us all of its glory, all of its goodness. And when the sun is in all of its glory and all of its goodness, we get its best qualities. So we're more radiant, we're more joyful, we're happy, we're energetic. We are in our leadership energy. We are in our protective energy. We're confident. We're refined. Like we're standing strong. So you're getting all of that. And when Mercury actually joined the sun, it got all of that goodness as well. And typically, I think this is worth mentioning, is because when a planet joins the sun and it's too close, we call that combust. And that means that the planet cannot give you all of its good qualities because the sun is too powerful for it and it burns the powers up. And so that planet is not at full strength. But Mercury in Leo, when it conjuncts the sun, it's far enough apart or away from the sun to where it's not getting all of its qualities burned. And so it's forming this aspect that we call the Kazemi, which is auspicious, and it's giving us blessings. And so we're getting all of the goodness from from Mercury. Mercury is in strength because it's getting energized by the glory of the sun. And so when it squares Uranus, I feel like, being that it's in retrograde, and retrograde asks us to go back over things that we haven't, that we might have missed. I think that we're getting just the information that we actually need with regard to the house that Leo is in. So I think you're going to get good, positive, sudden revelations with regards to your personal philosophies. Maybe you get accepted to that grad school program that you wanted to get accepted to because it's hitting your ninth house. Maybe you get news of your visa and your travel documents being approved. You know what I mean? Like, maybe you publish that book and it happens suddenly because you just got this sudden revelation and this sudden message that informs you, and now you can make the right decision. And so moving on to the following day, which is actually the day of the full moon, we have Venus in Virgo, and that's going to be in your 10th house, and we have it squaring Jupiter and Gemini in your 7th house. Now, your 7th house deals with partnerships and marriages, and as partnerships of all kinds. So any contracts, it deals with that. Your one-to-one relationship, marriages, first marriages, competitors, your shadow self, because it sits across from your first house, lawyers, mediators, counselors. I said contracts already. That deals with your 7th house. That's where Jupiter is. And then we have Venus in Virgo in your 10th house. Now, let me say this. Let me tell you what 10th house deals with. 10th house deals with your career and profession, your contribution to society, how you're actually seen in the outside world. So your public standing, your reputation, your material successes that people can actually see, and the identity that you actually carved out in the world. So how people see you. It also deals with the father. So your parental figures, caregivers, bosses, authorities of all kinds, so government, and your attitudes toward those topics. And so Venus is squaring Jupiter. Venus in your 10th house is squaring Jupiter in your 7th house. Now, neither one of those planets like where they are. They are benefic planets, and they usually give us blessing where they go. Venus deals with our money, beauty, luxury, our comforts in life, and Jupiter just expands and gives blessings everywhere it actually goes. And so with Venus in Virgo, it can't express its softer side because it's choked by overly criticizing Virgo. It's not diplomatic there. It's not in full force. So you're not getting all of those flowery qualities there. And then Jupiter is actually expanding that from your 7th house, but not in a good way. And when Jupiter is in Gemini, Jupiter tends to be overindulgent, overgiving, over optimistic, irresponsible, and just giving to where in the sense that it doesn't serve us. It's like too much, way too much overindulgence there. So it's blowing that Venus out of proportion. And so it's coming from your 7th house, that and square. And squaring is conflict, it's struggle, it's tension, and that's being blown up. And so you might, since it's coming from your 7th house, it's like, what are you being overcritical about in your relationships? What's going on there? Like, it's getting out of hand at this point. Or are you being overly criticized at work by an authority figure? Are you being publicly scrutinized by the public since it's dealing with your seventh house? Or are you publicly shaming people and being overly critical of them? That's coming out in this square, and you're not going to be able to do it because it's coming to a breaking point. It's going to actually bust, right? But not to worry. When Venus squares Virgo, when Venus opposes Virgo and not Virgo, when Venus opposes Saturn from your fourth house, Saturn knows the boundaries. It knows our rules. It knows our limitations, and it wants to put order in place. So what was blown out of proportion by Gemini, Saturn is now putting that in check and is giving you the tools that you need to actually put those boundaries in place and get rid of the negative effects of Venus in Virgo, and that's coming from your fourth house. So your fourth house deals with your sense of security and where you feel safe. So you might have to go and retreat for a little while, get your head together, and come back out and, put things in place since it's coming from that fourth house. Also on the 19th, that's the big day. That's the day that we have the full moon. And what is a full moon? A full moon is actually an opposition. And so an opposition between any two heavenly bodies is when they're sitting 180 degrees across the sky from one another, having a conversation. And that conversation could be pleasant or it could not be pleasant. It could be very tumultuous. In this case, I don't think that it's going to be an unpleasant conversation. I think it's going to be an amazing conversation. And the reason why I say that, even though it's being squared by the sun and the moon are both being squared from Uranus in your sixth house. The sun is in Leo. We talked about that in your ninth house. The moon is actually going to be in Aquarius in your third house. And so let's talk about that. We talked about what the great qualities that are and energies that are being bestowed upon us from the sun. What does the moon hold for us? The moon holds our inner, deepest private thoughts, our secret dreams, our highest ideals that only we know, but maybe are not for whatever reason able to express them because the moon hides it. It holds our instincts and our hunches and our secret dream, our dreams, what we yearn for, our highest ideals of ourselves, and experiences that we wish to have in this lifetime. And especially when the moon moves into certain house, all of that with regards to that house that deals with specific topics. And for you, it's in your third house, and your third house deals with your early childhood, your early environment. It deals with siblings, cousins, neighbors. It also is a business house, a communicative house. And so it deals with communication, our thought processes, because it's a house of Gemini. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. And so it deals with our everyday conversation, how we exchange ideas. So the moon is there holding your innermost desires for everything that deals with your third house. And the sun is 180 degrees staring right at those innermost private thoughts. And the full moon is a public event because the sun shines its power, its rays, and in this case, it's in full effect. Its goodness is illuminating all of those ideals and making you feel a way that you want to call all those ideals forth and implement them in a way to make your life better. And so you're being energized in that way, and the energy might feel erratic. It might feel chaotic because it's getting a jolt from the sun, and the moon is much closer to us. So that energy is magnified. And so people around you might feel that you might be acting a little bit erratic and chaotic, but in a good way, because you want to call forth those ideals with regards to that house that it's in, the third house. And then further, it's getting a jolt from Uranus in Taurus in your sixth house. And your sixth house deals with your schedules, your daily routines. It deals with your health. It deals with pets and things like that. So you might be, getting a strategy, a schedule together to call all of those things forward and make sure that they actually happen. Don't necessarily feel like this is a bad thing, because squares are typically categorized as harsh energy, and harsh energy, conflict, struggle doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. It just means that it makes us a bit uncomfortable. So you might move things around suddenly so you can bring those ideals into play. And yeah, it's uncomfortable because you're moving suddenly. You're having a revelation. You're having the impetus to get it done. And so, yes, that might be shocking, and it might, be jarring for some people, but maybe not necessarily bad. I'm not looking in your chart, so I can't see exactly what it's affecting. I mean, it could be bad, but again, you need to know what's going on in your chart personally to see. But in any case, you're prepared. So I feel like as long as you're prepared, you are equipped to handle this energy. Now, moving on the same day, we have probably one of the biggest energies here being energized by this full moon, and that's Jupiter in Gemini, in this case in your seventh house, squaring Saturn in your fourth house. Now, this energy has been going on since 2020, this energy between Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter and Saturn actually came together in a conjunction in 2020. And so when that happened, with regards to Jupiter and Saturn, we planted a seed. We started something, or some experience that will be unfolding over the next couple of years has started. And when those two planets come together, and I want you to think of it like this: when two planets come together, a seed is planted. So think of mother and father. When they come together, they create a seed, which is the baby. When the moon and the sun comes together, they plant a seed. It's the same thing when two planets come together. So what idea, what experiences, what new thing came into play in 2020 when Jupiter and Saturn came together? Now you will see the fullness of that seed when we have an opposition, because opposition is what shows the fruit that we bear from that seed that was actually planted. And when we have the square is the halfway point. And so the halfway point shows us what's working with regards to that seed and what is not. It gives us the opportunity to cultivate that seed, pull the weeds that's coming up with it, or pull it all together if it's not actually working. And it doesn't happen necessarily in pleasant way, because after all, it is a square. And so this is happening in your fourth and your seventh house. So with regards to your seventh house, like what was going on in your marriage, in your partnerships, in your contracts, in your one-to-one relationships, that's actually affecting your house right now, because it's squaring Saturn in your fourth house. So what's being disrupted? What's being uncomfortable? What tension are you feeling in your fourth house, or either of those houses, because of what's going on in each of them? That's what is affecting for you. If it's something that's meant to be, it's not going to be a bad thing. Because ultimately this energy moves us to our higher ideal. What the squares ask us is to find our strength, to find the solution. And without the struggle, without the tension, like a lot of times, like when we coast, we don't find our strength. We don't evolve into the person we are to become. It's because it's too easy. And so these energies give us the depth of who we are, because we are called to find our strength. You're gonna need strength. If you haven't been brave, you're going to need to be brave. You're going to need to have courage to deal with this, to do the right thing. And the squares kind of force us into those situations where we have to find the strength to get done what we need to get done. So with that regards, we need to be grateful for this energy. And what I want to go on to mention is that before we have this square on the 19th between Jupiter and Saturn, know this: Jupiter does not like to be in Gemini. And so sometimes we're overindulgent. We are overly optimistic, or we just are irresponsible when Jupiter, because we're doing too much. When Jupiter is in Gemini, Jupiter is all over the place. After all, it's in air sign that doesn't allow it to do things in a way or give in a way that is necessary. It's overly giving. And so how are you overly compromising in your partnerships and contracts? That's coming to an end because Saturn is teaching you where the boundaries are. It's showing you where you need to put rules in place here. And on the 14th, before the 19th, we had Mars go into Gemini, and Mars is raw energy. And when you have this raw energy go into a sign where another planet is, Mars will energize that planet. So if Gemini doesn't like to be in Jupiter and you have Mars going there igniting it, is just doing the absolute. It's already doing the most, but Mars just makes it combust. Like it just does. I don't want to say combust. That's not the right term for it, but it just blows it way out of proportion. And then on the 16th, Mars squares Saturn, agitating Saturn. And Mars and Saturn typically don't get along because Mars is the raw energy. If you think of Mars is like a young soldier that wants to charge and he'll get his head blown off. And Saturn is like the old general that knows if you go 2 clicks to the left, you're going to get your head blown off. And Mars comes and agitates Saturn, and Saturn is like, no, this is not happening. So Saturn is supercharged because of this Mars. And so it's really going to put the kibosh on what's going on in Gemini. And that's not necessarily going to be very comfortable. But now you are prepared. You know what's actually happening. Take courage. Know that you will evolve. Know that you will become stronger. You're going to find strength that you didn't even know you had in this energy. And that's exciting. So hang on to that. If it rains in your world, put on your rain boots, get your umbrella, get your raincoat. You're good. Keep it pushing. If you find yourself in struggle and tension and battle, grab your sword, grab your shield, and fight, because ultimately you're fighting for your best life. And so with that, guys, if you got some good information from this video, if this helps you, like and subscribe. We always have great conversations here. Share with your folks. And until next time, keep your hearts open and your spirits connected.